Hmm.
we listen the topic, come
Hmm.
to a logical stop, and
Hmm.
then take on from there in terms of explaining.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Oh my God, you took my thought away. I wanted to tell you that I said instead of reading every line, it will take a long time. We will all listen to the audio since you have already posted. Then we all come, we will write down our, like, you have a summary of it, and we will
Correct.
have questions, and then we will open up for discussion. I just wanted to tell this to you and Kirti, then Kirti ji, and then I said, I don't know, they'll all blacklist me.
That is what
No,
is
we are
called
not.
telepathy.
No. This is what I normally do if I have the audio book.
Yeah, I heard, I did hear the third chapter. I did seek the permission, and I did listen to all the audios that you posted. I think
Mhm.
Kirti Garu posted it, so I did hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So if you really go that way, right? So, has anyone gone through any of the recordings that have been posted?
I did, sir, on that day, but
Okay.
let's better read. I mean, let's listen again.
Yeah, I did listen to it. It's like 18 minutes or so. It's basically the third.
What I am asking you to comment
Mhm.
on is you are listening to the entire thing.
No, whatever chapter she posted, no?
Hmm. So we will start with the first chapter. Is that okay?
Yeah.
That introduction and all people can read
Yeah,
on their
yeah.
own. We don't need
Yes.
to
Yes,
spend
yes.
time on that. Everyone is able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
So are we okay to start?
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So let us start.
Copyrighted material. Copyrighted material. All rights reserved.
Part 1. Where You and the World Meet. Chapter 1. The Living Picture of the World.
Session 610, June 7th, 1972, 9:10 p.m., Wednesday. A number of events, foremost among them the death of Jane's mother after an illness of many years, caused us to lay these sessions aside after Seth finished his preface on April 10th. Jane did manage to hold her ESP and writing classes part of the time. She also worked on her novel, The Education of Oversoul 7, which she discusses in her introduction. Through it all, however, we looked forward to our daily participation in Seth's new book. Jane hadn't looked at Seth Speaks for long periods during its production in order to avoid conscious involvement with it. But, she said recently, smiling, she plans to read and use this work session by session as she delivers it. Whatever nervousness she'd felt about producing it was minimal by now. I encouraged her new free attitude. I'll indicate Jane's various states of consciousness as I usually do in these sessions, but the notes can only be hints from an interested observer. The true variety and depth of the various realities and personalities she reaches are qualities that are uniquely hers, and they often defy the written word.
Good evening.
Good evening, Seth.
Now for dictation. The living picture of the world grows within the mind. The world, as it appears to you, is like a three-dimensional painting in which each individual takes a hand. Each color, each line that appears within it has first been painted within a mind, and only then does it materialize without. In this case, however, the artists themselves are a portion of the painting and appear within it. There is no effect in the exterior world that does not spring from an inner source. There is no motion that does not first occur within the mind. The great creativity of consciousness is your heritage. It does not belong to mankind alone, however. Each living being possesses it, and the living world consists of a spontaneous cooperation that exists between the smallest and the highest, the greatest and the lowly, between the atoms and the molecules, and the conscious reasoning mind. All manner of insects, birds, and beasts cooperate in this venture, producing the natural environment. This is as normal and inevitable as the fact that your breath causes a mist to form on glass if you breathe upon it. All consciousness creates the world, rising out of feeling tone. It is a natural product of what your consciousness is. Feelings and emotions emerge into reality in certain specific ways. Thoughts appear, growing on the bed already laid. The seasons spring up, formed by ancient feeling tones, having deep and abiding rhythms. They are the result, again, of innate creative aspects that are a portion of all life. These ancient aspects lie now deeply buried in the psyches of all species, and from them the individual patterns, the specific blueprints for new differentiations emerge.
929.
The body of the earth can be said to have its own soul or mind, whichever term you prefer. Using this analogy, the mountains and oceans, the valleys and rivers, and all natural phenomena spring from the earth's soul, as all events and all manufactured objects appear from the inner mind or soul of mankind. The inner world of each man and woman is connected with the inner world of the earth. The spirit becomes flesh. Part of each individual's soul, then, is intimately connected with what we will call the world's soul, or the soul of the earth. The smallest blade of grass or flower is aware of this connection, and without reasoning comprehends its position, its uniqueness, and its source of vitality. The atoms and molecules that compose all objects, whether it be the body of a person, a table, a stone, or a frog, know the great passive thrust of creativity that lies beneath their own existence and upon which their individuality floats, distinct, clear, and unassailable. So does the human individual rise up in victorious distinctiveness from the ancient and yet ever-new fountains of its own soul. The self rises from unknowing into knowing, constantly surprising itself. As you read these sentences, for example, some of your knowledge is conscious knowing and is instantly available. Some is unconscious, but even the unconscious knowledge is knowing in its own unknowing. You always know what you are doing, even when you do not realize it. Your eye knows it sees, though it cannot see itself except through the use of reflection. In the same way, the world, as you see it, is a reflection of what you are. A reflection not in glass, but in three-dimensional reality. You project your thoughts, feelings, and expectations outward, then you perceive them as the outside reality. When it seems to you that others are observing you, you are observing yourself from the standpoint of your own projections. Now you may take a break.
Any comments from anyone?
Sir, the thing here he said, you may think others are observing you. So, observing in the sense he is talking about energy wise or the situations which is occurring.
Depending upon their levels of consciousness, through their experiences.
Okay.
See, how can you observe? Only when you are becoming aware of it, you will observe, right?
Yeah.
No, actually, let us go a little bit abstract.
Mm.
If I equate observe to seeing, right, then the first level of understanding you can draw from that is you have seen it. Does it mean something to you? Only then you observe.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Right? So that is important. And what is he creating actually? He says that the world that you are living in is something you have created for yourself, wide your imagination. Right? And your imagination could be influenced, or the final outcome can be influenced by the imagination of all the people that you might call is sigma all participation in a particular picture. Yes? Would you agree? You imagine something, I
Mm.
imagine something else on the same thing. We are
Mm.
all influencing the state of the community in which we are living.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what I have thought, my feelings, my thoughts, all of them are going to be embedded in that picture that is getting created.
Yes.
Right. So, the colors, the what do you call the emotions that make up that becomes the feeling tones.
Mm.
Okay. Now they are going to be the ultimate this one. And when you look at what you are creating, it is only possible when you look at it from the reflection. If there is no reflection, you won't be recognizing what you have created.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
And the world is created by every entity. We should not forget.
Yeah.
And in that game plan, the Mother Earth also is a body.
Mm.
So you are sigma of all those circumstances that you keep facing every now and then. Right? That is what he has brought about so far.
Okay.
Any questions from anybody? Can someone, if there is no question, right?
Sir,
Yeah.
so now we have been talking that the world is your creation. Okay. I mean, the sense like your world is different from my world, and I am living in my creation of the world, and you are living in your creation of the world. So, and whereas he is going here a little bit contradictory to that kind of a thought.
No, he is not contradicting. Okay. For a moment, let us say we are drawing the world. Okay. This is representing the world. Sorry. One second. Okay. Let us take this one. We are collectively creating the world. Okay. Right? Is this not a reflection of Ramki plus Chandra plus others?
Yeah.
Now, Ramki's vision can be a small portion inside. Okay. This is Ramki's portion. This is Chandra's portion. Correct?
No, but I am not aware of your world's existence.
You may not be, but it is also available there. What is projected there, right? what is
Uh-huh.
projected here is going to consist of all. Right? You can divide, you can carve out what you have thought of.
Okay.
Yes? You can
Yeah.
carve out what you have thought of. All these things ultimately has taken this particular shape.
Yes.
Correct? So, it is sigma that is what he is saying. Tomorrow, if you need something and it is already existing, will you take advantage of it?
Yeah.
Right? You need to know that it is available there. How will you know? Some is unconscious, but even the unconscious knowledge is knowing in its own unknowing.
Okay. Okay.
See, always when you are reading this book, look at it from the philosophical point of view, because you are looking at it from a higher dimension to a lower dimension.
Okay.
Right? Because it's the view of the soul. Your view is limited to a small circle. Right? Let us say your
Yes.
view is limited
Yeah.
to a small circle.
Yes.
Then this circle, my view is an expansion over it. Somebody else's circle is somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right? Now, all these put together, right? All these put together becomes the world tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right?
No, I know we were holding this opinion before we come to the spirituality, but then suddenly said, okay, it's all, everything is your creation. Okay.
It is. Right? Look at this. We say that we have a soul plan.
Yeah. I mean, as an example, when you are walking on some road, there may be a snake may be sitting there, but if you have not
Correct.
noticed it, it
But
doesn't
then
exist for you.
snake can be sitting there, but snake also is coexisting.
No, I know, but you are not aware of it because you didn't see it.
That is your whose problem?
No, I know, but what I mean to say is in your world, the snake does not exist.
It may not exist. That is why he is saying. It is
Yeah.
unconscious knowledge. As
Correct.
far as
Yeah.
you are concerned, it is belonging to that part of what you don't know.
Okay.
You are supposed to know that.
Okay.
Are you getting me?
No, yeah, I'm
See,
getting it.
what is happening is, my view is my view. Your view is your view. What will the universe take? It will take both the views. It will merge the overlapping
Okay.
portion and
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
The universe is like an organization. The organization has
Yeah.
to progress.
Yeah.
Right. There is no defined way saying that you have to follow only the leader.
Okay. So you are going one step above.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right? You project your thoughts,
Yeah.
feelings, and expectations outward, then you perceive them as the outside reality. You are perceiving that. When it seems to you that others are observing you, you are observing yourself from the standpoint of your own projections. That is how you end up becoming a creator, correct?
Okay.
Right? That is where he is ending the para.
Okay.
Any other questions, observations?
Yeah,
This is very
this is
useful.
your reflection. Whatever you see, whatever situations, whoever you meet, it's just your reflection. That's what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That reflection can be both conscious and unconscious.
Yeah.
And then when you recognize that through your observation, you are enhancing your state of being. You are enhancing by making that observation, saying that, oh, I missed this. This is also part of the creation.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Then let's continue.
946 to 1009.
Now, you are the living picture of yourself. You project what you think you are outward into flesh. Your feelings, your conscious and unconscious thoughts all alter and form your physical image. This is fairly easy for you to understand. It is not easy, however, to realize that your feelings and thoughts form your exterior experience in the same way, or that the events that appear to happen to you are initiated by you within your mental or psychic inner environment.
Right? This is very true, right? It is the basis of what we just discussed too. Correct? It is not easy to realize that your feelings and thoughts form your exterior experience in the same way, or that the events that appear to happen to you are initiated by you within your mental or psychic inner environment. There could be more, there could be less. How do you read that? Any comment? No comment.
You know what, sir? I want to
Yeah.
just share my experience recently.
Yeah.
I wanted certain person to be in a certain way, not like forcing, but it would be a like a mutual being in a synchronization or happy that way. So instead of conveying to that person, I was just imagining it in my mind. I was talking to myself in my mind. See, if it was this, this would have been like I'm telling another person like that. I was telling myself about this person to behave like this. It would be really good, and exactly that's how the behavior was of that person from the following day on.
I can sympathize, empathize, and agree with you. I had a very peculiar experience, right? I was talking about some picture and diagrams coming in my dream.
Uh,
Recall, right? I had even captured it in our one of the discussions and shown it to people, right? This diagram saying that this is how our body gets created.
yeah.
Yesterday, I picked up a book on Chinese new medicine.
Yeah, it was
And
shared in the group about body
no.
clock.
That is the body parts, the
Okay.
organs, and the organs clocks, right? So this goes into how, at a soul level, we can start healing ourselves. As I read through, I could experience every part of this diagram. Then I said, what is it? Is that synchronicity? Right? We do encounter that kind of a feeling. We do and experience too. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
If we really analyze, it is not unique to you, unique to me. All are getting. Only thing is, it is part of there, as he explains. It is part of there. Where is that? Some is unconscious, but even the unconscious knowledge is knowing in its own unknowing. What a construction of a sentence, right?
Yeah.
So let us continue.
Your body does not just happen to be thin or fat, tall or short, healthy or ill. These characteristics are mental and are thrust outward by you upon your image. I do not mean to be facetious, but you were not born yesterday. Your soul was not born yesterday in those terms, but before the annals of time, as you think of time. The characteristics that were yours at birth were yours for a reason. The inner self chose them. To a large extent, the inner self can even now alter many of them. You did not arrive at birth without a history. Your individuality was always latent within your soul, and the history that is a part of you is written within unconscious memory that resides not only within your psyche, but is faithfully decoded in your genes and chromosomes and fulfilled in the blood that rushes through your veins. You are aware, alert, and participating in many more realities than you know as your soul expresses itself through you. That consciousness of your usual daylight hours, the ego consciousness, rises up like a flower from the ground of the underneath, the unconscious bed of your own reality. Though you are not aware of it, this ego itself emerges, then falls back again into the unconscious, from which another ego then rises as a new bloom from the springtime earth.
1027.
Okay. Now, what does he mean by this word ego here? What is the meaning of the word ego?
Like body conscious?
Is this a wakeful state?
So this is what it means. This is what it means.
Oh, personality, life after life.
Because it rises and falls, rises and falls. Personality, life after life, or in a life, both.
Yeah, waking up and going to bed and wake up.
Right?
And, getting up and going to sleep and getting up, that also, yeah.
Right? Either it is after or within a life also.
Yeah.
Yeah? Any comments? It is a continuous learning process. That's the hidden meaning.
You do not have the same ego now
But
that you had
ego,
5 years ago, but you are not aware.
Yeah.
so but the ego is present or manifest or visible only when you are conscious. That means either you are during the day or during your partially waking hours of your sleep. I mean, you are actively thinking phase of your sleeping period too, right?
No, even when you are not, when you are in an astral travel also it is so, right?
When you are in an astral okay, that's a good question. A good point, sir.
In a dream,
Ha, ha,
don't you
ha.
have an identity?
Yeah. Okay.
Right? Ego is going to be, you need to look at ego as the ever changing. That is why he is going into the explanation of that, saying you do not have the same ego now that you had 5 years ago, but
Yes.
you are not aware of the change. If he is going into past, it can also be future.
Yeah. Okay.
Ego rises out of what you are, in other words. But you don't know what you are completely. Right? It's a very interesting paradigm for us to recognize.
Aware of the change. Ego rises out of what you are, in other words. It is a part of the action of your being and consciousness, but as the eye cannot see its own shifting colors and expressions, as it is not aware that it lives and dies constantly as its atomic structure changes, so you are not aware that the ego continually changes, dies, and is reborn.
So that
Physically, the
establishes
structure
that
of a cell
it is a personality, life after life, or personality within a life.
That is the body personality.
No, ego is related to body only, no?
Yes, body, mind, personality. Yes.
retains its identity, even while the matter that composes it is continually altered. The cell rebuilds itself in line with its own pattern of identity, yet is always a part of emerging action, alive and responding even in the midst of its own multitudinous deaths. So, psychological structures form to which various names are given. The names are meaningless, but the structures behind them are not. Such psychological structures also retain their identity, their pattern of uniqueness, even while they change constantly, die, and are reborn. The I rises out of the physical structure. The ego rises out of the structure of the psyche. It cannot see itself as the I cannot. Both look outward, in one case away from the physical body, and in the other case away from the inner psyche to the environment. The creative body consciousness creates.
So we have two entities when we look at something. There is a physical one outside. There is a psychic one inside. We need to be conscious of that.
So is it like a tanmatras?
No. See, you have your feeling tone which is creating what is inside, right? Yeah?
Can you repeat
You have
that?
created a particular picture, but when it has manifested outside, it is a different one. So the structure that is physical and the structure that is physical and outward need not necessarily be the one that is inside. Maybe outside there are greater details, or inside there are greater details. You are only able to visualize the projected part.
So are you saying like whatever my imaginary picture is manifested in a different form?
That is also possible, or it is not yet completely manifested. They are in various states. That is the point he is trying to highlight. So what is he saying? Going
The
further.
I. The creative
Sir,
inner
what
psyche
can be
creates
the
the
physical?
ego,
What can be the
the body.
Yeah, come again.
no? What can be the physical form of an ego? Cannot be any physical form, right? It is only inside you.
Oh no. When you project the ego outside, do I get an impression that Ramakrishna is like this?
But yes, that is still non-physical.
Why do you say that is non-physical? I am seeing Ramakrishna and forming my opinion. Is that
No, but
and
that is
your intended projection the same?
no, but that opinion is inside you, right? So
Correct. That is what he is also telling. Because it cannot see itself, right? And you yourself look at something, you have projected it, you have acted on it. Is it the same as what you have created?
Nitina.
Yeah, okay.
Is it the same as what you have created? Yes and no.
Sometimes yes, sometimes not.
Exactly. That's the point he's trying to highlight.
Okay.
And why is that? The creative body consciousness creates the I. The creative inner psyche creates the ego. Who is creating what is creating the differentiation and explaining. So let us see further what is.
He forms the I in the splendid wisdom of its great unconscious knowing. The psyche brings forth the ego that perceives psychologically as the I perceives physically. Both the I and the ego are formations focused toward perception of exterior reality.
Both of them
You
are
may take your break.
towards the perception of the projected reality. Right?
Yeah.
Is there something I can do with both within one page? Yeah. Still further. Okay. Now this is too small. Can you read that entire green highlighted sentence together, or the entire line? The creative body consciousness creates the I. The body consciousness is creating what is projected. But the inner creation is the ego.
Okay.
Right? So the mind is creating the ego. What is projected outside, consciously recognized, becomes the creation of the I. Yes?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Right? The body forms the I in the splendid wisdom of its great conscious knowing. The psyche brings forth the ego. The ego perceives. Ego perceives the reality. The I sees the reality. There are two functions involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the point he is making. So now he is going into, I think, a sort of an explanation.
1036 to 1045.
Yeah,
Now,
one sec.
this is not book dictation.
Yeah, go ahead, Namrata.
Sir, what do you mean by psychic?
Psychic is mind, mental.
Okay.
The mind is the consciousness of your brain, correct?
Yeah.
So that is what is referred to as psychic. Because that plane is psychic, right? Mental plane. Oh, sorry. Psychic will be, yeah, that's it.
Rupert was correct in the insight of a few moments earlier during break. In my book, we will be going deeper into the nature of the unconscious and the psyche, bringing out some concepts that are of greatest value. Rupert himself, unconsciously, but also to some extent consciously, has been more intrigued with questions concerning consciousness and personality. The role of the ego consciousness, for example, since beginning his novel Oversoul 7.
In late March 1972.
Did you observe this? Who is Seth?
Seth is the conscious which is speaking through.
Which is the soul. It is an experienced soul.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Rupert is the name, the way
Jane.
the soul is recognizing Jane.
Yeah.
But what did he write here? In the current life, Jane is a female. What did he write here? Can you read this? What did he address? Can someone read this?
Beginning his novel.
Beginning his
His novel.
Ah, right. So what does it denote?
Male as a gender.
So at
No,
that
there is
conscious
only
level,
one gender in that consciousness from where he is speaking.
Mm-hmm.
There is no male, female in the soul, right?
Yeah, there is no. I mean, soul is nothing.
So that is the point that is coming out here. Very subtle, right?
Yeah. Who got this Seth consciousness to write? I mean, Jane Roberts?
Yeah. She channeled
Oh.
Seth. And Seth said he would only talk through Rupert.
But is Seth lived on this earth? I mean, just.
A million times.
Oh.
Your people are not reading what is being supplied to you.
In
for
one
whatever
line,
reason.
he was the daughter of Seth a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm.
Okay.
2. Much is not as yet known. Your psychologists are not able to think in terms of a soul, and your religious leaders are not able, or refuse, to comprehend it psychologically, even to its simplest degree. Metaphysics and psychology have not met, in other words. Now, I am, as I have told you often myself, independent of Rupert. As you know, there are connections between us. He does not understand as yet the true nature of his own creativity. Few people do. There are always psychological reasons for all such phenomena, for any phenomena at all. In some respects, of course, Rupert's children are his books. His psyche is enormously creative. Part of what I seem to be as I speak through him is as deeply and unconsciously a phenomenon as the birth of a child would be. In a different way, so is Oversoul 7, as he thinks of it. These are not physical children at the mercy of time and the elements, but eternal ones, more knowledgeable than the parent, gods springing from the human psyche, half human, half divine. And on this level, the parent is astonished, delighted at the superior accomplishments of its children, the superiority of the offspring, and yet also jealous to some extent. If the books are children symbolically, then in those same terms his representation of my reality is a far more living, three-dimensional aspect. He has at various times wondered about schizophrenia, for example. He does not realize that on this level, now, and regardless of my independence and other issues involved, that he creates the personalities free of time, organizes them under the leadership of the conscious mind, and assigns them tasks of great validity and importance, which are then carried out. This is creativity of a most specialized nature and allows him to probe, if you will, into the nature of consciousness, the psyche, and creativity in a way that few can. Now, he himself set up the conditions that would make such results possible. A certain part of my reality is a portion of a certain part of his reality, and here the creation of what I seem to be takes place.
Okay. Any comments from anyone? Whether they have understood what he is trying to say?
He's saying that the books which were written are like an advanced leveled one.
They are his,
Right?
his children.
No.
Yeah.
First set
comparing
the
like a
stage. No. First understand the stage that he has set. Right? What is the stage that he has set? He is talking about the creative body consciousness creates the I, the creative inner psyche creates the ego. The body forms the I in the splendid wisdom of its great unconscious knowing. The psyche brings forth the ego that perceives psychologically as the I perceives physically. Okay? But there are two levels of perception.
Yeah.
Now, take that condition and apply it to a writer. Okay. So he is going back into, he is conveying the message that as a soul, he can see what is happening. So Rupert was correct in the insight of a few minutes earlier. In my book, that is the book that he is dictating. That is why he says this is not a dictation. Here he is saying this is not a dictation, right? So what is he saying? Rupert was correct in the insight of a few minutes earlier. In my book, we will be going deeper into the nature of unconscious and psyche, bringing out some concepts that are of greatest value. Rupert himself, unconsciously, but also at the same extent, to some extent consciously, has been more intrigued with the questions concerning consciousness and personality and the role of ego consciousness. Okay. Now he is explaining that these three concepts. How is he explaining? For example, since beginning his novel, Oversoul 7, in late March 1972, much is not yet known. He doesn't know much about the novel that he is writing. Your psychologists are not able to think in terms of a soul. Your religious leaders are not able or refuse to comprehend it psychologically, even to its simplest degree of what is a soul. Are you able to understand that? Yes, no, all right, please. See, if you are a writer, what is your role you are playing if you are a writer?
Can we go to the previous paragraph? I'm fine with the second, the green one. No, that's one concerning the, not that, sir, the next page itself. Just the previous paragraph. A little bit down. Okay, so with the questions concerning consciousness and personality, the role of the ego consciousness. I'm a bit confused those terms.
No, he is saying that as an author, he has got all these scenarios in the picture that he is building.
Aren't they all represent the same?
No, that is the point he is trying to explain.
Perspectives.
So
They are
not
different perspectives. I read, that is why I took you here. The body forms the I in the splendid wisdom of its great unconscious knowing. The psyche brings forth the ego that perceives psychologically as the I perceives physically. Psychologically, I may even perceive what is inside this box, right? Anything stops me?
So is it like physical reality versus mental conception?
Exactly. Right. Just look at this. What color do you think this is?
Yellow.
The reality, the color that it actually is green. What has your eye perceived it as? Yellow. Correct? But in reality, it is actually green. This is not yellow. Are you able to see?
Yeah.
Right? So, what has the mind perceived it? Whereas what has the eye perceived it? There are two separate perceptions.
Okay.
Got it? Both the I and the ego are formations focused towards perception of exterior reality. Okay. Now, how does that influence? Suppose you are playing a particular role. How does that impact the role? There is the unconscious, there is the conscious, correct? Rupert is writing a book. In my book, that is the book that he is dictating. In what he is dictating, we will be going deeper into the nature of unconscious and the psyche, bringing out some concepts that are of greatest value. That means he is going to highlight the difference and clearly explain what is what. Now, Rupert is not clear. He is also intrigued with the questions concerning consciousness, personality, the role of ego, consciousness, right? So, for example, since the beginning of his novel, right, much of the novel, the theme is not complete. The theme is still being built, right? The psychologists are not able to think in terms of a soul. The religious leaders are not able to think. Why is this? He is saying that thinking as a soul is different from thinking in physical reality.
Yes.
Because soul is more mental in nature, right? Okay. Metaphysics and psychology have not met, in other words. That means one is metaphysics, the other one is psychology, because you are perceiving. Right? Now, I am, as I have told you often, independent of Rupert. Right? Where is it?
Beyond that is my own independent reality.
Okay. So, right, as you know, there are connections between us. What is the connection? He knows him from his childhood. Seth material. Seth speaks, contains some references to the reincarnational connections that Seth postulates involving himself, Jane, and me. Right? Such personal data is outside the scope of the book. So he is bringing that there were some connections. He does not understand as at the true nature of his own creativity. He doesn't know what he has created, the potential that is hidden in that creativity. He is not aware of it. And very few people do. One example is Leonardo da Vinci. When he was painting, he was always at the awareness and always connected to his higher self. So he was able to look at reality from a very different perspective. Okay. There are also psychological reasons for all such phenomena, for any phenomena at all. So there could be some reasons, some barriers, etc. for this kind of a, right, isolated behavior. In some reasons, of course, Rupert's children are his books. Okay. His psyche is enormously creative. Part of what I seem to be as I speak through him is as deeply and unconsciously a phenomena as the birth of a child would be. That means he is creating characters when he is speaking through Jane. Okay. There seems to be absolute silence. Anyone getting what is being read?
Yes, sir. We are getting it.
Right. So, all right. Part of what? No, that's done. Right. Okay. Unconsciously, a phenomena as the birth of a child would be. In a different way, so is Oversoul as he thinks of it. He thinks of it as his creation, as though it were his child, his baby. I created it, it's my baby. That writer gets that feeling, correct? These are not physical children at the mercy of time and elements, but eternal ones, more knowledgeable than the parent, gods, springing from parent and God, springing from the human psyche, half human, half divine. Right? He is attributing certain characteristics to it. And on this level, the parent is astonished, delighted at the superior accomplishments of his children, the superiority of the offspring, and yet also jealous to some extent. Okay. This happens, right, when we admire. That jealousy is not the negative side of the jealousy. Your admiration, oh, I could do it, he did it. Right? So, if the books are children symbolically, then in those same terms, his representation of my reality is a far more living three-dimensional. He can only think three-dimensional. He has at various times wondered about schizophrenia, for example, right? It is basically psychic living, right? Schizophrenia is more of psychic. He does not realize that on this level now, and regardless of my independence and other issues involved, that he creates the personalities, of free of time, no dependency, organizes them under the leadership of the conscious mind, and assigns them tasks of great validity and importance, which are then carried out. So, in your imagination, these are the things that happen.
I have a fundamental question. Who is he?
Yeah.
Who is he in this reference?
Okay. He is the soul. Seth is the soul.
Okay.
He is the one who is dictating the whole stuff. This entire book and many others in the Seth wisdom are dictated.
Yes, at that part, yeah.
Correct. And Jane is also parallelly writing a book of her own.
Okay.
So he has taken that, he is able to read her thoughts. So he is taking that scenario and explaining to us the concepts. When you are a writer, right, you create a child. Correct? You create a baby.
Okay.
And that baby has got a superiority. It has got qualities which make him way beyond what his capability is, because there are no bounds when you are imagining, correct?
Okay.
In your creativity, there is no limitation. So what is he saying? He says he has at various times wondered about schizophrenia, for example. So basically, is he having suffering from that is what his wonder is. He does not realize that on this level, that means as a writer, as a creator, a creative personality, now and regardless of my independence and my other issues involved, that he creates. He is an author writing on his own, and he is also taking down dictation.
Okay.
So he is playing two roles simultaneously.
Okay.
So he is
Wow.
talking about his awareness in that two scenarios.
Okay.
Okay. This is a we can. Where is that beyond and all? Okay. This is a creativity of a most specialized nature and allows him to probe, if he will, into the nature of consciousness, the psyche, the creativity in a way that few can. Because he is playing dual role, his ability to think on those lines is easier. Now he himself set up the conditions that would make such results possible. a certain part of my reality is a portion of a certain part of his reality. There is overlapping reality. And here the creation of what I seem to be takes place. That means there is coincidence of the consciousness in certain areas, not all the areas, right? Beyond that, I am my own independent reality. That means there is some match, there is some mismatch, there is some overlap in what you are thinking, what I am thinking, there is a difference. The way I am understanding it, the way you are understanding it are two entities, right? Ratna.
So here, so a certain part of my reality is a portion of certain part of his reality. So you're saying, say, suppose the Seth here as a character, I mean, as a person, is playing a dual role. One he
Seth
and
is
one,
not playing
one
the
as a
dual
person,
role.
one as the writer.
No, not Seth. Seth is not playing the dual role.
Okay.
Seth is a soul who doesn't have any boundaries, right?
Okay, yes.
But let us say Chandra is dictating something and
Yeah.
Ratna is documenting it.
Yeah.
Okay. But Ratna is also doing her own book.
Okay.
Now, some portion of my thinking and your thinking will match.
Yes.
Some portion is not going to match.
Yes.
So I, as the dictator, am having my own independence, right?
Mm.
Which is far exceeds what is your dependence, because you cannot proceed on the book without my dictation.
Yes.
If it was your own book, you have got your creativity, but you are not aware of what is the end goal of that creativity. It's a theme that is developing.
Yeah.
Right? So those are the three scenarios he is bringing.
Okay.
Okay? So there is some portion and the creation of what I seem to be takes place. The way what I am trying to dictate, she is able to create that to some extent, not complete extent. Okay?
I will have more to say and add to these notes so that they will build up by themselves.
They're very interesting.
If Rupert would regard his problems as challenges, then he would get much better results. That is all for now. And
what does this sentence indicate? He has painted the scenario for us, right? What does this indicate?
Consider the problem as a challenge, then it would have better result.
He's
What he has
saying,
written, but what does that mean?
yeah, he's saying same way we should think the problems as challenges, not problems as problems.
Because
Each
if you
challenge
take
has
a
hidden secret.
problem, a problem is generally a bottleneck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bottleneck could be as forceful as you stop and give up.
Yeah. So he's saying if you think
But because you are a creator, you have creativity, why don't you look at the problem as a challenge? When you look at it as a challenge, you will also look at the need to overcome that, correct?
Yeah, then he says you get better results.
Exactly. Okay? Right?
Yep.
So then he is explaining what happened. This is all explanation in italics, right?
I bid you a fond good evening.
The same to you, Seth. Thank you.
Come to our class sometime.
Okay. ends at 11:10 p.m. Jane holds her ESP class on Tuesday night each week. Since I'm more solitary by nature, however, I usually type Monday's session then, or work on filing and correspondence. In answer to many queries, I'll explain here why I prefer to write these sessions down instead of using a recorder. Shortly after Seth began to speak through Jane in late 1963, we tried recording the material, but I soon learned that I can type a session from my notes a lot faster than I can from a tape. This is very important, since all of our psychic work is done at night, after we've already put in a full day writing and painting and carrying out all those other actions connected with just living in an organized way. Yet I've had to modify my schedule in order to find the additional time required for the preparation of this manuscript. I paint in the mornings and do this work in the afternoons. When Jane speaks to me as Seth, her delivery is slower than it is during a class session, for instance. This, along with Seth's own instructions, makes punctuation easy. The copy is concise. After an occasional correction, it's ready for publication. Moreover, I think the fact that such high-quality work is obtained this way says important things about these sessions. Session 613, September 11th, 1972, 9:10 p.m., Monday. After holding the first session for this chapter, Jane wrote intently on Oversoul 7 and did some work on a long-range project that she tentatively calls Aspect Psychology. Then, just before we were to resume work on Seth's book, the Great Flood of Friday, June 23, 1972, took place. The flood was the worst on record in this section of the country. It grew out of Tropical Storm Agnes, which, somewhat ironically, had lost its hurricane status by the time it began its erratic course up the east coast from Florida. Agnes was preceded by days of heavy rain that extended on a broad front for hundreds of miles. The storm unexpectedly veered inland after picking up new strength off the Virginia Capes, and when it stalled over New York and Pennsylvania, flooding became inevitable. Jane and I decided to remain behind when, finally, last-minute requests to evacuate our section of Elmira were made before dawn. Our decision, of course, contained deeply symbolic meanings for us that we still only partially understand. The Chemung River passes less than a block from our apartment house on its way through the center of the city. But since we lived on the second floor, we thought we'd be secure. The house was solid, we decided. The neighborhood emptied itself, except for us, and became extremely quiet. The water, thick with topsoil, exuding a near suffocating odor of petroleum effluents, became 1 foot deep in the yard, then 3, then 5. Jane and I found ourselves experiencing a drastic new world, and although Seth hasn't said so yet, I believe that to be one of the reasons we stayed. We sipped wine and used light self-hypnosis to take the edge off our tension. But as we watched the water crawl up the side of the old red brick house next door, our new reality threatened to turn into a terrifying one indeed. Had we made the right decision? By now, escape was probably impossible. I suggested that Jane tune in psychically to see what she could learn about our situation. It's hard to be calm when you're really scared, she said, but began to compose herself. Gradually, she attained a very relaxed state. She told me that the water would reach its highest level late that afternoon. Incredibly, it would become almost 10 feet deep in the yard and reach halfway up the first-floor windows of the house next to ours. We would be safe as long as we stayed where we were. Jane sounded awed, though, when she said that the Walnut Street Bridge would go. I was awed, too, since the old steel bridge crossed the Chemung River less than half a block from us. We couldn't see it because of the houses across the street. As soon as Jane had picked up this information, we began to feel better. We ate, played cards, and periodically checked the water level. Several hours passed. The flood crested within 15 minutes of the time Jane had given, and within 3 inches of her projected high water mark. We slept that evening knowing that the water was dropping quickly. The next morning I walked over to the Walnut Street Bridge. It had been destroyed. Several of its spans had been washed out. We were lucky compared to many others in the city. We'd lost our car, but we had a place to live and had all of our paintings, manuscripts, and records, including the 53 volumes of the Seth material, intact. Since we occupied 2 apartments in order to have enough living and working space, we had room to take in a couple who had been flooded out. The weather was cold and rainy. Our days became a routine of actions devoted to survival, although Jane finished Oversoul 7 early in July and resumed her classes. This book was put aside for a long time. In August, Jane held 1 session on the flood, in which Seth had time to just touch upon the various reasons behind our personal involvement in it. And late that month, and in September, we had several house guests in connection with psychic work. One of them was Richard Bach, author of the very successful book Jonathan Livingston Seagull. When she felt it was time to resume work on Seth's book, Jane discovered to her surprise that she was somewhat nervous about it. Yet, speaking for Seth, she resumed dictation so smoothly that it seemed there hadn't been any such thing as a 3-month lapse.
Good evening.
Good evening, Seth.
Now, give us a moment and we will resume dictation.
All right.
Your experience in the world of physical matter flows outward from the center of your own psyche. Then you perceive this experience. Exterior events, circumstances, and conditions are meant as a kind of living feedback. Altering the state of the psyche automatically alters the physical circumstances. There is no other valid way of changing.
One point here. Can someone read it? Identify what is that point?
You create your own reality.
Yeah, but then he has made a very strong point. What is the last sentence?
That's what it is. Altering the state of psyche automatically alters the physical circumstances. So how you
So, yeah,
that
you can
Now,
always change.
Can you apply this to heal yourself?
Yeah. Yes.
Overcome your physical problems, social problems, health-related problems, and so on.
yes.
That is what you are learning in spiritual tablets. Correct?
Please read that sentence again.
Altering the state of psyche automatically alters, right, the physical circumstances.
Just what Joe Dispenza's
Yes,
sessions
yes,
are about.
yes.
Physical events. It might help if you imagine an inner living dimension
In fact,
within
he
your
is adding to it. There is no other valid way of changing physical events. There is no other valid way.
So that means only by thinking positively.
By changing the inner psyche, you can change your physical circumstances.
of your own psyche.
It's a strong
Then you
statement.
perceive this
Pardon?
That is the strong statement.
Yes.
experience. Exterior events, circumstances, and conditions are meant as a kind of living feedback. Altering the state of the psyche automatically alters the physical circumstances. There is no other valid way of changing physical events. It might help if you imagine an inner living dimension within yourself in which you create, in miniature psychic form, all the exterior conditions that you know. Simply put, you do exactly this. Your thoughts, feelings, and mental pictures can be called incipient exterior events. For in one way or another, each of these is materialized into physical reality. You change even the most permanent-seeming conditions of your life constantly through the varying attitudes you have toward them. There is nothing in your exterior experience that did not originate within you. Interactions with others do occur, of course, yet there are none that you do not accept or draw to you by your thoughts, attitudes, or emotions. This applies in each area of life. In your terms, it applies both before life and after it. In the most miraculous fashion are you given the gift of creating your experience. In this existence, you are learning to handle the inexhaustible energy that is available to you. The mass condition of the world and the situation of each individual in it is the materialization of man's progress as he forms his world.
924.
The joy of creativity flows through you as effortlessly as your breath. From it, the most minute areas of your outer experience spring. Your feelings have electromagnetic realities that rise outward, affecting the atmosphere itself. They group through attraction, building up areas of events and circumstances that finally coalesce, so to speak, either in matter as objects or as events
It's
in
glitching,
time.
sir.
Some feelings and thoughts.
Pardon? Yeah,
It's
did you say
breaking.
something? Did it break? Yeah, there's some problem with the internet. You want me to read it again?
All the exterior conditions that you know. Simply
I
put,
think some
you
internet issue,
do
sir.
exactly this.
So even now? Then let me change the internet. Let me go to the other provider. Because for these book clubs, I have taken 2 providers.
Oh my God.
One is a backup. I've taken the lowest.
Your thoughts, feelings, and mental pictures can be
Is that
called
better,
incipient.
Kirti? Is that
Yes,
better?
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And we will resume dictation.
All right.
Your experience in the world of physical matter flows outward from the center of your own psyche. Then you perceive this experience. Exterior events, circumstances, and conditions are meant as a kind of living feedback. Altering the state of the psyche automatically alters the physical circumstances. There is no other valid way of changing physical events. It might help if you imagine an inner living dimension within yourself in which you create, in miniature psychic form, all the exterior conditions that you know. Simply put, you do exactly this. Your thoughts, feelings, and mental pictures can be called incipient exterior events. For in one way or another, each of these is materialized into physical reality. You change even the most permanent-seeming conditions of your life constantly through the varying attitudes you have toward them. There is nothing in your exterior experience that did not originate within you. Interactions with others do occur, of course, Yet there are none that you do not accept or draw to you by your thoughts, attitudes, or emotions. This applies in each area of life. In your terms, it applies both before life and after it. In the most miraculous fashion are you given the gift of creating your experience. In this existence, you are learning to handle the inexhaustible energy that is available to you. The mass condition of the world and the situation of each individual in it.
What is that inexhaustible energy available to you? What is that inexhaustible energy available to you? It starts with F.
Is this light of intelligence?
Free will?
Yes. That is the inexhaustible energy that is available to you.
Is the materialization of
Oh, free
man's
will.
progress as he forms his world.
924.
The joy of creativity flows through you as effortlessly as your breath. From it, the most minute areas of your outer experience spring. Your feelings have electromagnetic realities that rise outward, affecting the atmosphere itself. They group through attraction, building up areas of events and circumstances that finally coalesce, so to speak, either in matter as objects or as events in time. Some feelings and thoughts are translated into structures that you call objects. These exist, in your terms, in a medium you call space. Others are translated instead into psychological structures called events that seem to exist in a medium you call time. Space and time are both root assumptions, which simply means that man accepts both and assumes that his reality is rooted in a series of moments and a dimension of space. So your inner experience is translated in those terms. Even the duration of an event or object in space or time is determined by the intensity of the thoughts or emotions that gave it birth. Duration in space is not the same as duration in time, however, though it may seem that this is the case. I am speaking in your terms now. An event or object that exists briefly in space may have a much greater duration in time. It may have far greater importance and intensity existing in your memory, for example, long after it has disappeared in space. Such an event or object does not merely exist symbolically within your mind or memory, but in your terms, its actual reality continues as a time event.
You want to stop here?
Yes, sir.
You know, I could hear some people yawn. Yeah? So we'll stop here, okay? Any last minute comments? Page 34. Okay. What is the comment that you have in terms of what we are going through?
Now, the first word from me was wow, looking at your backdrop.
Huh?
Looking at your that backdrop, it was my first comment was wow.
No, that's actually the sea in Ireland. It's a wave.
Okay.
So now I'm curious, sir, why you kept that?
Me? I don't know. I just felt like keeping it. There is no, what you call, reason. I just liked it when I had created it, so I just put it there.
Okay. No, last time you kept eagle. So I thought that
Yeah.
was related to something. I thought you have some
No,
vision
no.
or something
No,
here
no,
for
no, 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 no. That eagle
Mm.
was my indicator of my higher self.
higher self. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this is what we are learning. So how do you find it? What is the first experience? My first experience with this stuff was crazy. I was really scared about what he is trying to tell me.
Why scary, sir?
Ah, we didn't follow much,
Okay.
honestly.
Okay.
Because that was the first book club that we started with.
Okay. Yeah, then it would have been really tough.
As it goes forward, like I hope it doesn't take the shape of thinking and destiny.
See, all philosophies is like all roads lead to Rome. So you may get that feeling, but in thinking and destiny, your thoughts make it. This is more than thoughts.
Mhm.
If that is the cause, this is the effect.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a very heavy subject.
Yes.
I'm stopping the record.